What if I told you the food crisis we've all been dreading has already started? You walk into the grocery store. Your usual $3 eggs now cost $9. Honey, nowhere to be found. And that shelf where rice used to be, empty. This isn't a scene from a dystopian movie. It's happening now. Bird flu outbreaks have wiped out over 31 million hens in 2025. Bee colonies are crashing at an alarming 70%. And with weather disasters, supply chain failures, and rising global tensions, the clock is ticking. So if you've ever wondered what foods you should stockpile before it's too late, this video is for you. Because by the time people realize what's vanishing, it'll already be gone. Before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe, give this video a like, and hit the bell so you're always ahead of the crisis, not reacting to it. Let's jump into the 12 items you'll regret not stockpiling before the next food crisis, and we're starting with the ones disappearing the fastest. 1. Eggs and powdered eggs. Let's start with one of the most immediate and visible shortages: eggs. The bird flu outbreak of 2025 has been devastating beyond belief. In just a few short months, over 31 million egg-laying hens have died across the United States. That's not just a statistic. It's a direct reason you're seeing egg prices skyrocket to $8.99 or even $10 per dozen in some grocery stores. Eggs, which used to be a basic, affordable protein, are quickly turning into a luxury. And when supply drops this fast, demand doesn't just stay the same, it surges. Bakeries, restaurants, food manufacturers, and regular families are now competing for a shrinking supply of cartons. In some regions, stores have already begun limiting how many eggs each customer can buy, a scene painfully reminiscent of early pandemic panic buying. But there's a smart workaround that many overlook: powdered eggs. These are shelf-stable, lightweight, and can last up to 10 years or more when stored properly. They can be easily rehydrated for cooking or baking, and they taste surprisingly close to fresh when scrambled. They're a game changer for anyone building a long-term pantry. You can also find freeze-dried versions that retain even more nutritional value. Whether you're making breakfast, baking bread, or adding protein to emergency meals, powdered eggs offer reliable versatility. Plus, they don't require refrigeration and can be portioned as needed, reducing waste. If you're not already stocking up on fresh eggs and their powdered counterparts, you're falling behind. Because as this bird flu crisis spreads, and it's projected to intensify, there may come a day when real eggs are simply out of reach. And when that happens, you'll be incredibly grateful to have a stash of shelf-stable egg alternatives already in place. 2. Honey. Now, let's talk about a sweet favorite, honey, and why it's quietly becoming one of the most endangered items on store shelves. In 2025, bee colony collapse has reached frightening new levels. In some areas of the United States, we've already lost up to 70% of commercial hives. That's not just bad news for honey lovers, it's a major red flag for the stability of our entire food system. Bees aren't just producers of honey, they're the unsung heroes behind the pollination of over 80% of the fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds we eat. Without bees, entire food chains start to collapse. And the collapse doesn't happen overnight, it starts with honey. Prices are already creeping higher, and local honey, especially the raw, high-quality kind, is disappearing fast from farmers' markets and grocery shelves. Commercial honey producers are struggling to meet demand as colony numbers dwindle. And don't forget, honey isn't just a sweetener, it's also a natural preservative, antibacterial, and immune booster. It never goes bad, making it perfect for long-term storage. It's also incredibly useful for treating sore throats, wounds, and even skin infections. In any survival scenario, honey will be as valuable as medicine, and possibly more. So what can you do? Start by stocking up on raw, local honey now, while it's still within reach. Choose honey packaged in glass jars over plastic. They preserve quality better and store longer. Consider also keeping small jars for trade or gifting during hard times. Honey will be more than just a comfort food in the coming crisis. It will be a critical resource for health, barter, and nourishment. As bee populations continue to decline due to pesticides, habitat loss, and disease, Honey could soon be as precious as gold, and you'll be glad you bought it while you still could. 3. Rice. It may not seem like much, but rice is one of the most important survival foods on Earth, and it's in trouble. Global rice production has taken massive hits in 2025. Floods in Asia, droughts in Africa, export bans in India. Combine that with a rising global population, and we're seeing one of the steepest rice shortages in a decade. Add in transportation bottlenecks, fertilizer shortages, and rising energy costs, and the supply chain is cracking under pressure. Rice is no longer just a cheap staple, it's turning into a strategic resource. Even in the US, rice prices are rising, quietly but steadily. And here's the scary part. When major exporters like India limit shipments, poorer countries scramble for supplies, and that trickles down to you. Suddenly, what used to cost $12 for a big 20-pound bag becomes $35, if you can even find it. In some stores, shelves are already half empty, and panic buying hasn't even started yet. The smart move? Stock up on white rice, not brown. Brown rice has oils that go rancid faster, while white rice can last 25 plus years if stored properly in mylar bags with oxygen absorbers. Vacuum-sealed containers and cool, dry conditions can make all the difference in shelf life. It's also calorie-dense, easy to cook, and can feed a family on a tight budget. You can build a basic food storage system just by setting aside a few bags a week. Mix it with beans for a complete protein. Add canned veggies or broth for quick meals. And when rice becomes a luxury in stores, you'll be eating like a king for pennies. 4. Canned meats. Protein is one of the hardest things to come by in a real food crisis, and canned meats are one of the best ways to stay stocked. When things get rough, forget fancy dinners. You'll need calories, protein, and shelf-stable options. Canned chicken, tuna, Spam, and even roast beef can last 5 to 10 years or more when stored properly. Here's the truth. In 2025, we're already seeing meat processing plants under stress again. Between feed shortages, high fuel prices, labor strikes, and diseases like avian flu and swine fever creeping in, production is dropping while prices are climbing. In some areas, the cost of beef has nearly doubled. Chicken is increasingly hard to find, and if transportation breaks down, fresh meat will vanish overnight. Canned meats are your safety net. They're ready to eat, require no refrigeration, and offer the protein your body needs when real food is scarce. Add hot sauce, mustard, or mix with rice, and you've got a meal. Buy what you'll actually eat. Rotate stock. But make no mistake, when meat is too expensive or unavailable, a few cases of canned protein could make all the difference for your family. 5. Cooking oils. Here's something most people forget until it's gone. Cooking oil. No matter how much rice, beans, or canned food you've got, you'll still need fat. You need it to fry, bake, saute, and even survive. Fats provide energy, they help your body absorb vitamins, and without them, you'll feel the impact fast, especially in survival conditions. But oils go bad. That's the tricky part. Vegetable oil, canola, soybean, these have shelf lives of about 12 to 18 months. Once they go rancid, they smell awful and can make you sick. That's why smart preppers choose oils like coconut oil and olive oil, especially the ones in glass containers, which block light and extend shelf life. Now here's where it gets urgent. The 2025 sunflower oil shortage triggered by war and poor harvests in Europe is already affecting global supply chains. Prices have doubled in some countries. Major fast food chains are quietly switching oil types due to cost and availability. Stock up now before panic buying hits again. Choose stable oils. Store them in cool, dark places. A few gallons of oil today could be worth hundreds tomorrow, and may be the key to actually cooking your food instead of just boiling it. 6. Salt. If there's one item that's as valuable as gold in a food crisis, it's salt. It's not just for flavor. Salt is a preserver. For thousands of years, salt has kept meat, fish, and vegetables safe to eat without refrigeration. It's also essential for your body, for hydration, nerve function, and muscle performance. You lose salt every time you sweat, and in survival scenarios, especially hot summers, that loss adds up fast. Without enough salt, You risk headaches, fatigue, cramps, or worse. In a crisis, you might be forced to eat bland or boiled foods just to get by. Salt transforms that into something edible. It also makes bartering easier, because trust me, people will trade real goods for a handful of salt when supplies run out. Here's the kicker. Salt is cheap for now. You can buy pounds of it for just a few dollars. It doesn't expire, it doesn't spoil. It's one of the smartest, most versatile preps you can buy. Stockpile iodized salt for nutrition, sea salt for flavor, and rock or canning salt for preservation. Store it in airtight containers to avoid moisture. And rest easy knowing you've got one of the oldest survival tools known to man sitting right in your pantry. 7. Flour and baking essentials. Here's something most people overlook in their emergency plans. Flour and baking staples. Flour is the foundation of homemade food. Bread, pancakes, tortillas, biscuits, they all start with flour. In a real crisis, baking from scratch isn't just an option, it becomes a necessity. And guess what? In 2025, we're already seeing wheat prices fluctuate like crazy. Thanks to global droughts, fertilizer shortages, and the lingering impact of war in major wheat-producing regions, flour prices are creeping up. Some countries have started limiting grain exports, which means less supply, higher prices, and more competition worldwide. If you wait until things get worse, you might find that a simple 10-pound bag of flour costs you $20, or that it's simply not available. But it's not just flour. You need baking powder, yeast, sugar, baking soda, and salt to turn that flour into real meals. Without those, your flour isn't much help. White all-purpose flour lasts about a year or two on the shelf. But if you vacuum seal it or store it in Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers, it can last up to 10 years. Whole wheat flour goes bad faster because of the oils in the wheat germ. So if you buy it, plan to use and rotate. A few extra bags of flour and baking staples in your pantry today can keep your family fed with fresh bread when shelves are empty and store-bought options are gone. 8. Canned vegetables and tomatoes. Fresh produce disappears first during a food crisis. Power goes out, refrigeration fails, trucks stop moving, grocery shelves clear out. But you still need vitamins, minerals, and fiber. That's where canned vegetables become a survival essential. Beans, corn, peas, carrots, green beans, they're all rich in nutrients and long-lasting. But one of the most valuable items? Canned tomatoes. Why tomatoes? Because they're the base for so many meals. Pasta, chili, soup, stews, and they're acidic, which makes them more shelf-stable. You can use canned tomatoes in dozens of ways, stretching your pantry further than almost any other item. But don't wait too long. Climate-related crop losses and fertilizer costs have hit tomato growers hard. California, a major tomato producer, has seen multiple years of low yield due to droughts and water restrictions. And when production drops, prices surge. Stock up on low-sodium options so they're better for your health. Go for variety. Whole, diced, crushed, paste. Stack them in cool, dry places and rotate your supply regularly. Canned vegetables may not be gourmet, but when fresh options vanish, they'll be your ticket to balanced meals and long-term health. 9. Shelf-stable milk. Think about how often you use milk in coffee, cereal, baking, sauces. Now imagine going weeks or months without refrigeration. How would you keep milk in your diet? That's why shelf-stable milk is so critical. Powdered milk, UHT milk, ultra-high, temperature-treated, and canned evaporated milk all store safely without a fridge. They last months to years, depending on the type and how they're stored. During past crises, like the pandemic or winter blackouts, milk was one of the first items people rushed to buy. And in 2025, things are only getting worse. Dairy farmers are facing feed shortages, rising transportation costs, and regulatory pressure that's causing some to shut down. That all leads to fewer cows, less milk, and higher prices. Even school lunch programs in several states have reported shortages of milk cartons, leading to rationing and substitutions. Powdered milk can be reconstituted for drinking, used in baking, or added to oatmeal and coffee. UHT cartons are great for grab and use, and evaporated milk works in cooking and desserts. Having several types in your pantry gives you options. It gives you flexibility. And more importantly, it gives you peace of mind. Because in a food crisis, the comfort of a warm bowl of oatmeal or a splash of milk in your coffee might mean more than you ever imagined. 10. Peanut butter. It might seem simple, but peanut butter is one of the most powerful survival foods you can store. Why? Because it's calorie-dense, packed with protein, rich in healthy fats, shelf-stable for years, and, let's be honest, it actually tastes good. In one spoonful, you're getting nutrients, energy, and comfort. That's rare in a crisis. It doesn't require cooking. It doesn't need refrigeration after opening. You can eat it by the spoonful, spread it on crackers, mix it into oatmeal, or stir it into sauces. But here's the problem. Peanut prices are climbing. In 2025, peanut crops in several southern states were hit by drought and fungus outbreaks. Farmers are harvesting less, while demand for shelf-stable foods is rising globally. That's a recipe for shortages. And let's not forget supply chain chaos. Peanut butter production was halted multiple times this year due to recalls, contamination, and packaging shortages. One hiccup in the chain, and it disappears from shelves fast. Get the big jars. Choose natural versions without too much sugar or preservatives. Store extras in a cool, dark place and rotate regularly. In a world where meat is scarce and cooking fuel is limited, a single jar of peanut butter could provide enough calories for days and keep morale high when everything else feels bleak. 11th, dried beans and lentils. If you're looking for cheap, powerful, and long-lasting nutrition, nothing beats dried beans and lentils. These humble pantry staples are a survival powerhouse. They're packed with protein, rich in fiber, and loaded with essential minerals like iron, magnesium, and potassium. When stored properly in sealed mylar bags with oxygen absorbers or food-grade buckets, they can last 25 years or more, making them one of the best investments in long-term food security. They're also incredibly affordable, with a 1-pound bag often costing just a couple of dollars, and when bought in bulk, the savings multiply. In a crisis, a single bag of beans can become a full, sustaining meal when paired with rice. Add a few spices, and you've got warmth, calories, and comfort in one bowl. Lentils, in particular, are a smart addition because they cook faster than most beans, require no soaking, and still deliver a high nutritional punch. They're perfect for quick meals when fuel and time are limited. But there's a problem. In 2025, global output of pulses, which includes both beans and lentils, has declined. Water shortages, extreme heat, and shrinking farmland have all contributed to reduced harvests. At the same time, a growing number of people are turning to plant-based diets either out of choice or necessity, pushing demand for these staples even higher. And when meat becomes unaffordable or unavailable, which is happening more often these days, people scramble for alternatives, and that's when beans disappear from store shelves. Canned beans are helpful for quick, ready-to-eat options, but they cost more and take up more space. Dried beans, on the other hand, are lightweight, easy to store, and stretch much further. You can feed your family for pennies per meal, all while providing the protein and nutrients needed for strength and health. 12. Seeds for growing food. This is arguably the most powerful item on the entire list, and the one people tend to ignore until it's far too late. Garden seeds. When food runs out, when prices skyrocket beyond your budget, and when store shelves stay empty for days or even weeks, the ability to grow your own food becomes not just useful, but absolutely essential. Right now, seeds are cheap, incredibly cheap in fact. But when a full-blown food crisis hits, they'll either be unavailable or ridiculously overpriced. Just look at what happened back in 2020. Seed companies were completely sold out for months, and that was during a short-term pandemic, not a long-term economic breakdown like we're now facing in 2025. Erratic weather patterns, global seed patenting, and widespread soil depletion are making it harder and more expensive to grow food the traditional way. That's why home gardening is no longer just a relaxing hobby, it's quickly becoming a survival skill. Stocking up on heirloom, non-GMO seeds is critical right now. These seeds can be saved, replanted, and passed on, unlike hybrid seeds that often produce sterile or unreliable crops. Focus on reliable growers that thrive in most conditions, like tomatoes, peppers, green beans, carrots, zucchini, lettuce, and herbs. Even if you don't have land, you can still garden. With container gardening, vertical setups, or raised beds, even a small balcony, rooftop, or sunny windowsill can grow something valuable. Seeds have no expiration date if they're stored properly in a cool, dry, and dark place. They take up almost no space, require no refrigeration, and can provide food, independence, and hope for years to come. If you've stocked your pantry but haven't stocked your garden, you're still exposed. In the end, seeds are freedom. Seeds are security. And sooner than we think, seeds might just become the most valuable currency on Earth, more powerful than gold or silver. We've just covered 12 essential items you'll regret not stockpiling before the next food crisis. But here's the truth. It's not the next food crisis. It's already begun. Prices are rising, shelves are thinning, and families everywhere are feeling the pressure. The USDA isn't hiding the numbers anymore. Bird flu, bee collapse, wheat shortages, dairy disruption, global fertilizer wars. It's here, it's real, and it's accelerating. But you still have a window, a chance to prepare before the panic spreads. Before items are rationed, before governments intervene, before you find yourself standing in an empty store, wondering why you didn't act sooner. Start small if you need to. A few cans, a few extra bags of rice, a few jars of peanut butter, then build from there. Stock your pantry, plant your seeds, learn to cook simple meals from real ingredients, and most importantly, help your friends and family do the same. Because this isn't just about surviving, it's about thriving, about creating resilience in the face of chaos, about knowing your kids won't go to bed hungry, no matter what happens next. If this video opened your eyes, please give it a like, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe so you never miss a critical update. We're in this together, and the more people who are prepared, the stronger we all become. Stay safe, stay smart, and stock up before it's